Hi, so let's talk about this activity that's determine the meaning of the word based on the antonym in context. If you're struggling with this, you are not the only one. And this is actually meant to build skills to make you a better reader as opposed to just memorizing vocabulary. So let's take a look. A synonym is a word that has a same or similar meaning. So it might not be exactly the same meaning, but it's something that's pretty close. So an example might be fly is a synonym for soar. Now, of course, I might, as a writer, think about whether to use fly or soar. Fly seems very technical. Like if you're flying, you're flying. But if you're soaring, there's this idea of like freedom. There's this like feeling behind soaring, maybe that isn't inherent in the word fly. So that's a synonym. It has a similar meaning. They're two different words. They might differ slightly, but pretty much they mean the same thing in the sense that flying and soaring are the same. Okay, an antonym is the opposite. So an antonym is a word with an opposite meaning. So one example would be the word joyful. If you know the word joy, that's going to be joyful is kind of like happy. A synonym for joyful might be happy, but an antonym might be morose. Morose meaning the opposite of joyful, meaning like very sad. And basically, what this activity is doing is it's saying, okay, let's say you stumble across a text, and you will do this where you don't know a word. That's normal. The question is, can you use the context to figure out what it means? So if you have a text and you have the word morose in the text, you might be able to figure out that it means sad or not joyful if you're able to identify that it's the antonym to joyful. If you can identify that its opposite in the sentence is joyful, then you can identify what it means, which is the opposite of joyful, which is sad. So here's an example. It says, after a joyful morning spent on the sunlit beach, the tile floors and artificial light of the waiting room seemed morose. First of all, I'm noticing that there's this mood happening. And where's the difference? Where's the shift in this very short story? It's that there was sunlight, beach, and then that they were stuck inside in this waiting room. And so, how did they feel when they were on the beach? Well, it was joyful. So, that word joyful is an indication, is kind of how they were feeling before, and now they're feeling morose. So, I'm kind of noticing that joyful and morose are set up in the sentence as opposites. And so now I can figure out that, oh, morose means the opposite of joyful. So let's go to IXL and do some practice there. It says read the passage and select the antonym of the word in bold. So we're looking for the word in the passage that means the opposite of this word in bold. So let's read the whole thing and then we'll search. It says, as technology evolves, items that are valuable today may be thrown in the trash tomorrow. Typewriters, payphones, and cassette tapes were all once considered current technologies, but thanks to computers, cell phones, and digital audio, these items are now obsolete. So obsolete is maybe a word you don't know, but let's try to find out if there's a word here that you do. I'm noticing that these same types of things, these technologies, were all once considered current technologies, but thanks to blank, they are now obsolete. There's a shift there with that word but. And so that tells me that how they were before is the opposite of how they are now. And so I'm going to say that how they were before is that they were considered current. So current is going to be the opposite of obsolete. Let's see. Correct. Awesome. Now, what is the meaning of the word obsolete as used in the passage? Use the antonym current as a context clue to help determine the meaning. So because current is its opposite, Let's try to guess what obsolete means based on that. Notice, I have not told you what obsolete means, and I haven't used a dictionary. I'm actually just using the context to figure this out. So it says obsolete, valued and respected. Is that the opposite of current? No. No longer in use. Is that the opposite of current? Well, something that's current is used in the present, so maybe no longer in use is the opposite. That's a good choice. How about pointless? Well, something that's current that's being used right now could still not have a point. So I'm going to say no longer in use. Awesome. Let's do one more example and then I'll leave you to it. It says writing that is concise often conveys a message most clearly and effectively to the reader. You can prevent your writing from becoming too wordy by deleting unnecessary words and phrases and by using specific, precise language. So the writing that's concise conveys its message clearly and effectively, but that's the opposite of how that is how we want it. The opposite of how we want it is what we want to prevent, so we're trying to prevent it from becoming too wordy by deleting unnecessary words and phrases. So I'm going to say wordy is the opposite of concise because it's set up as kind of your writing can either be concise or it could be wordy. Notice that oftentimes you have the same subject for your antonyms. In this case, the subject is writing. In the last one, the subject was technologies. All right, and what does concise mean now, based on the fact that it's the opposite of wordy? Well, wordy is, let's say, has a lot of words to it. So concise, persuasive, and convincing. Well, it could be persuasive but still use a lot of words. Short and to the point. That does seem like the opposite of using a lot of words. I'm going to select that one. Formal or elegant. Once again, something could be formal or elegant and use a lot of words. So I'm going to say short and to the point. Awesome. Now it's your turn. Remember, don't freak out if you don't know what the words mean. Try to use the context because it will set you up for success if you are in a place where you don't have a dictionary or you're taking a test and you need to make your best judgment.